If you cannot control yourself, you will lose. Not sometimes, every time. That is a hard truth most people try to ignore, yet it quietly shapes every result in life. People spend years blaming circumstances, blaming other people, blaming lack of opportunities, while the real reason stays hidden in plain sight. The real enemy is never outside. It lives inside your habits, your reactions, your daily choices. And until that enemy is faced, nothing truly changes. There is a reason why many talented people fail while average people rise and win. It is not luck, it is not intelligence. It is something far less talked about and far more powerful. Self-control. Studies in behavioral psychology reveal that the ability to delay pleasure and stay disciplined predicts long-term success more than raw talent ever could. Yet most people still chase motivation instead of building control, and that is where they fall apart. In this video, you will learn why controlling yourself is the foundation of winning in any area of life. You will understand how your mind quietly tricks you into choosing comfort over growth, how small daily decisions slowly destroy big dreams, and why discipline feels painful in the moment but creates freedom in the long run. There are patterns that successful people follow that many never notice, and once you see them, the way you think about success will begin to change. There is also a lesser-known truth that many people miss. Self-control is not about being perfect, it is about being consistent when it matters most. History shows that people who mastered their impulses were able to rise even in the toughest conditions, while those who gave in to distractions stayed stuck even with endless opportunities around them. That difference is subtle, yet it changes everything. As this video goes deeper, you will start to see how control over your thoughts, your time, and your actions becomes the real power that shapes your future. The more you understand this, the more you realize that winning is not something given to a few lucky people. It is built step by step through control that most people never develop. Stay with this video until the end, because the final shift in mindset can completely change how you approach your life starting today. It is simple yet powerful enough to separate those who keep struggling from those who finally move forward. Welcome to our channel, where we break down the truths that actually change your life. Subscribe now and become part of a journey where you stop losing to yourself and start taking control for real. People often believe that success comes down to talent, luck, or a sudden wave of motivation that pushes everything forward. It feels comforting to think that way because it removes responsibility. It creates an excuse. If someone else is more talented, then failure feels justified. If luck is missing, then effort seems useless. If motivation is low, then action can be delayed. This belief quietly becomes a trap that keeps people stuck in the same place for years without them even realizing it. The truth moves in a different direction. Most people already know what they need to do. The information is everywhere. Wake up early, stay consistent, focus on meaningful work, avoid distractions, take responsibility. None of these ideas are new or hidden. Yet there is a gap between knowing and doing, and that gap is where the real problem lives. It is not confusion, it is not lack of knowledge. It is the inability to control actions in the moment when it matters the most. A person sets a goal with full energy and clear intention. It feels real at the start. Plans are made, routines are imagined, and a better version of life seems close. Then something small happens, a distraction appears. Comfort becomes more attractive than effort. The mind starts negotiating. Just a short break, just a little delay, just one more day. That pattern repeats quietly until the goal loses its power and the promise made to oneself slowly breaks. This cycle creates a deeper issue that many people ignore. Every time a promise is broken, self-trust becomes weaker. It becomes harder to believe in personal goals. Doubt grows even when the desire to change is still there. Over time, this builds a habit of inconsistency where starting feels easy but continuing becomes difficult. It does not happen because of a lack of ability. It happens because control over impulses and actions is missing at critical moments. What makes this even more difficult is how normal it starts to feel. Breaking small promises seems harmless in the moment, but it slowly shapes behavior. Days turn into weeks and weeks turn into years, while the same pattern repeats under different goals. The surface changes, but the core issue remains untouched. quietly influencing every result that follows. The day often begins with clear intentions. There is a plan in mind, a sense of direction, and a quiet belief that today will be different. You tell yourself that this is the day you stay focused, the day you finally move forward. For a moment, everything feels aligned. Then something small interrupts that flow. A quick check on the phone, a short break to relax, a simple delay that feels harmless in the moment. It feels controlled, almost planned, like something that can be managed easily. Minutes begin to stretch without being noticed. That short pause turns into a longer distraction. The mind stays comfortable, drifting from one easy activity to another. There is always a reason to continue. One more video, one more scroll, one more moment before starting. Time moves quietly, and by the time awareness returns, a large part of the day is already gone. The plan that once felt strong now feels distant, pushed aside without any real decision being made. There is also a pattern in avoiding the things that require effort. Tasks that demand focus or discipline start to feel heavier than they actually are. The mind begins to create resistance, making simple actions feel difficult. It becomes easier to choose something light, something entertaining, something that gives quick satisfaction. This choice happens again and again, slowly building a habit where comfort becomes the default direction. Growth often sits behind actions that feel uncomfortable at first. It requires attention, effort, and a willingness to stay present even when the mind wants to escape. Yet the pull toward comfort is always there, strong and immediate. It does not ask for effort. It does not challenge anything. It simply offers relief in the moment while quietly taking away progress that could have been made. This pattern creates a silent struggle that repeats daily. It is not loud or obvious. It does not feel like failure at first. It feels like small choices that seem normal and harmless. Over time, these small moments begin to shape the entire direction of life, while the gap between intention and action continues to grow without being fully understood. There is a truth that many people try to soften, but it remains the same no matter how it is explained. Losing in life is often blamed on difficult circumstances, unfair situations, or the weight of challenges that seem too heavy to carry. It feels easier to point at life and call it hard, to believe that the struggle itself is the reason things do not work out. That belief creates a sense of relief because it shifts attention away from something much closer and much more uncomfortable. The real struggle shows up in small daily moments where actions do not match intentions. It appears when a decision is made and then quietly ignored. It shows when focus is needed but distractions take over instead. These moments may seem minor on the surface, but they carry more impact than people realize. The outcome of a day, a week, or even a year is often shaped by these repeated choices, not by a single difficult event. Control over actions becomes the dividing line. When that control is missing, even the best plans start to fall apart. A person may have clear goals, strong ideas, and the desire to improve, yet without the ability to follow through, everything remains incomplete. It is not about understanding what needs to be done, because that understanding already exists. It is about doing it consistently, especially when it feels uncomfortable or inconvenient. Discipline often gets misunderstood in this process. It is seen as something restrictive, something that removes freedom or makes life harder. In reality, it works in the opposite way. It creates structure, direction, and the ability to move forward without being pulled in different directions by every impulse. It does not limit a person, it strengthens them by giving control over choices that would otherwise be automatic. There is a quiet power in being able to act with intention rather than reaction. It shows in how time is used, how focus is maintained, and how decisions are made when no one is watching. Without that power, even simple tasks become difficult to complete, and progress begins to slow down without a clear reason. The absence of discipline does not always look dramatic, but its effects appear in everything that fails to move forward. There is a deeper reason behind why staying disciplined feels so difficult, and it begins with how the brain is designed to function. The mind naturally moves toward comfort. It looks for ease, safety, and quick satisfaction. This is not a weakness, it is a built-in system that once helped humans survive. Saving energy, avoiding stress, and seeking immediate rewards were all useful in the past, but in the modern world, This same pattern creates a quiet conflict between what feels good now and what actually leads to progress. Easy rewards are always available. A quick scroll, a short video, a simple distraction that gives instant relief. These actions require almost no effort, yet they provide a small burst of satisfaction. The brain quickly learns to prefer these moments because they are fast and predictable. Over time, this creates a loop where attention is constantly pulled toward what is easy, even when there are more important things waiting to be done. At the same time, actions that lead to growth feel very different. They require focus, patience, and effort. They do not provide immediate results, and sometimes they feel uncomfortable at the start. The brain reads this discomfort as something to avoid. It tries to guide behavior away from effort and back toward ease. This is why discipline can feel heavy, even when the outcome is something deeply desired. This internal push and pull happens quietly throughout the day. One part of the mind understands the long-term goal, while another part keeps searching for short-term comfort. The stronger the habit of choosing ease, the harder it becomes to stay focused on what truly matters. It is not a lack of desire for success, but a constant battle between immediate pleasure and delayed reward. Over time, the brain adapts to whatever pattern is repeated most often. When distractions are chosen again and again, they become automatic. When effort is avoided, it starts to feel even more difficult each time it appears. This is why the path toward real progress often feels uncomfortable in the beginning, because it goes against a pattern that has been reinforced for a long time. There comes a point where waiting begins to feel like progress, even though nothing is actually changing. Many people stay in that space expecting motivation to arrive and solve everything. It feels logical to wait for the right mood, the right energy, the right moment where everything feels easier to start. Days pass with the same pattern where intention exists but action keeps getting delayed because the feeling does not match the plan. Motivation has a way of appearing strong at the beginning and then fading just as quickly. It creates a short burst of energy that makes everything seem possible for a brief moment. Plans are made with excitement, goals feel clear, and action seems natural. Then that energy slowly disappears, leaving behind the same resistance that was there before. Depending on motivation alone creates a cycle where starting feels easy, but continuing becomes uncertain and inconsistent. A different approach begins to form when attention shifts away from feelings and moves toward decisions. Control does not depend on mood or energy. It is built in moments where action is taken even when there is no desire to act. This changes the relationship with work because it removes the need to feel ready before doing something important. Instead of waiting for the perfect state of mind, action becomes something that happens regardless of how it feels. There is often a quiet resistance that shows up right before taking action. It suggests waiting a little longer, starting later, or choosing something easier for now. That resistance feels convincing because it aligns with comfort. Moving through that moment requires a simple but powerful shift where action is taken without negotiating with that voice. It may feel small at first, but it creates a clear difference between reacting to feelings and directing behavior. Over time, repeating this pattern begins to change how actions are approached. The focus moves away from finding motivation and toward building consistency. Even when energy is low or distractions are present, there is a steady movement forward. The process becomes less about feeling prepared and more about responding with intention in the moments that usually lead to delay. Control rarely shows itself in big dramatic moments. It begins in small decisions that seem almost unimportant at the time. How time is used during quiet hours, how habits are followed when no one is watching, how reactions are managed in situations that test patience. These moments pass quickly, but they carry weight that builds over time. Each small choice either strengthens control or weakens it, shaping behavior in ways that are easy to overlook in the beginning. Time is one of the first areas where this becomes clear. A few minutes wasted here and there may not seem like much, yet they slowly add up and start to take space that could have been used differently. Being aware of where time goes creates a sense of direction. It allows actions to be intentional instead of automatic, where each part of the day starts to serve a purpose rather than drifting without focus. Habits follow a similar pattern. They are built through repetition, often without much attention. Small routines form quietly and then begin to run on their own. When these habits are guided with intention, they begin to support progress. When they are left unchecked, they move in the opposite direction, creating patterns that become harder to change over time. The difference comes from consistent control in the early stages, where simple actions are repeated until they become stable. Reactions also play a role that is easy to miss. Situations change quickly, and responses often happen without thinking. A moment of frustration, a sudden distraction, a shift in focus can alter the direction of an entire day. Having control in these moments creates a pause between impulse and action. That pause allows a different choice to be made, one that aligns more closely with long-term goals rather than short-term emotions. These small areas may seem separate, but they connect in a way that builds something stronger over time. Each controlled action adds to a growing sense of discipline. It does not happen all at once. It forms gradually through repeated effort in moments that most people ignore. As this pattern continues, actions begin to feel more stable, more directed, and more aligned with the path that was once difficult to follow. There is a subtle shift that begins to change everything, and it starts with the way a person sees themselves. The words used in daily thoughts may seem small, but they carry meaning that shapes behavior over time. Saying that an effort will be made keeps things uncertain. It leaves space for hesitation, for delay, for backing away when things start to feel uncomfortable. That kind of language sounds harmless, yet it quietly weakens commitment before any real action even begins. A different pattern starts to form when the focus moves toward personal standards. Instead of leaving room for doubt, there is a clear line that defines how actions are taken. Promises made to oneself begin to hold weight. They are no longer treated as flexible or optional. This creates a sense of responsibility that does not depend on mood or outside pressure. It becomes something internal, something steady, something that guides behavior even when no one else is watching. Acting in difficult moments becomes part of this shift. There are times when effort feels heavy and distractions feel easy, yet action still happens. It may not feel perfect and it may not feel strong, but it is consistent. Each time this happens, it reinforces a new pattern. The mind begins to recognize that action is not based on comfort, but on choice. This slowly replaces old habits where feelings controlled behavior. Identity starts to build through repetition of these actions. It is not created by a single decision or a sudden change. It forms gradually, shaped by what is done again and again. When actions align with a stronger standard, that standard becomes part of how a person sees themselves. It is no longer about trying to improve, it becomes a natural way of operating, where discipline and consistency are part of daily life, rather than something that needs constant effort to maintain. This change affects more than just individual tasks. It influences how challenges are approached, how time is used, and how setbacks are handled. The focus shifts from temporary effort to a stable way of thinking and acting. Over time, this creates a foundation where actions are guided by a clear sense of identity rather than changing emotions or external conditions. At the end of everything, it always comes back to one simple truth. If you cannot control yourself, nothing else will matter. Your dreams will stay as ideas, your plans will remain unfinished, your potential will never fully show itself. It will not be because you lacked ability or opportunity. It will be because control was missing in the moments that mattered the most. Life does not demand perfection, but it does respond to consistency. The ability to guide your actions even when it feels uncomfortable begins to shape a completely different path. It changes how you move through your day, how you respond to challenges, and how you build something real over time. This kind of control does not appear suddenly. It is built through small decisions that are repeated until they become part of who you are. When you begin to master yourself, everything starts to shift. Focus becomes stronger, habits become more stable, progress becomes visible. It no longer feels like you are stuck in the same cycle because your actions start to move in a clear direction. That is where real change begins to take form, quietly but steadily, through control that most people never fully develop. There is a different kind of confidence that comes from knowing you can rely on your own actions. It does not depend on motivation or perfect conditions. It comes from showing up again and again, even when it is difficult. That is the foundation that supports every form of success, no matter the area of life. If this message connected with you, take a moment to support the channel, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more content that helps you take control of your life and move forward with purpose. The journey starts with one decision, and that decision is always in your hands.